What is going on, everybody? It is episode 778 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett, and I am here once again with a co-host who is filling in today. Introduce yourself, sir.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil. I sing for a heavy metal band. Y'all know me. I'm usually here on Thursdays, but today's Thursday, right?
No, yes, today's Thursday.
There you go. Today's Thursday. So, hi.
Things all run together here sometimes, don't they?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. How you doing, Andrew?
I'm fine. My name is Andrew. I'm the Timcast IT guy. Yeah.
Doing good?
Yeah, man. Did you mean to do that thing, co-host who is filling in?
Well, I mean, I didn't do it on purpose, but it's on the forefront of your brain every time when he fills in on IRL, when he fills in here. He's filling in. He's doing his job. You know, it's a good stuff there, and he's over there he's like, I'm so sick of Philcast. He doesn't want to be Philcast.
Well, now the word Phil spelled with an F has a PH in front of it for me.
Yes,
so.
Exactly. Guys, we got a bunch of stuff to get into today. We're getting settled into things right now. I had to make some minor adjustments before we get started, but we are getting settled in today. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about. Before we get started, would you hit the like button on this video and subscribe to this channel if you are new here and have not subscribed here yet already? The best way you can help this show grow, guys, is if you share the videos and the live streams and the segments out with your friends and your family and your loved ones, everyone in between. The more people you share it with, the faster this channel can grow. For those of you in the chat who are asking where Mary is, she is out of town for the week. She will be back next week on Tuesday. I will be off Monday through Wednesday next week, so on Monday there will be no show. She will be back on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then I will be back, and the show will return as normal on Thursday of next week. Got a bunch of stuff going on, so there is your update for that one. I have to do that every day. People were very mad because if you saw before the show, in honor of the confirmation of RFK, Tim decided to buy everyone at the company a whole crap ton of Taco Bell. So if there was ever a bad time for Mary to be out of town, it's today.
I was actually thinking about that earlier. Yeah. Like, damn.
Yeah. Yes, Saranka. No, she wasn't feeling well Monday and Tuesday. She's out of town for the rest of the week. So yes, it's a bad time to be out of town when there's just endless Taco Bell in the studio. Yeah. So what are we getting into today? We got a bunch of stuff. I do want to talk at some point about the trailer for The Accountant 2, a movie I don't think anybody expected to get a sequel.
Listen, Ben Affleck is great, and I'm tired of all the attacks on Ben Affleck. I'm an Affleck fan.
I'm an Affleck fan.
I like the Bad Affleck too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, me too.
So Batfleck, yes, Batfleck.
I still love that shot from the trailer when he's coming out of the ruins and he just looks like the Incredible Hulk. He's so enormous. It's awesome.
Badass.
So he said, why no show on Monday? Well, because Mary will not be back and I will be gone. So, unless we could just put Chair on for 2 hours.
We could
we do Chaircast next week?
I mean, we can. I'll turn it on and turn it off.
Would anybody in the chat watch if we just put on Chair 1, Chair 2, and Chair 3 next week? We could do that.
We could put wigs on them.
It's probably about as informative as I am most of the time. So,
If you could figure out a way to make the stories like flash on the screen as well as the chairs,
we could probably do that.
That might be something.
So we are going to talk about the trailer. I also want to play the trailer for Twisted Metal Season 2. That's where Anthony Mackie truly shines. It's not Captain America. It's in, I don't even remember his character's name in Twisted Metal. He was just awesome character number 1. But we're going to look at that as well. We're going to talk about this brand new lawsuit. It's a $100 million defamation lawsuit that Diddy has filed against NBC, Universal, and Peacock over the most recent documentary that they released, because in the world of Hollywood now, almost the biggest industry you have is the one where some celebrity does something horrible and then everybody cashes in by making a documentary about the person who did the horrible thing. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about Kathy Griffin, who is continuing the Hollywood trend of antinatalism and a lot of just cynicism in general, saying that you shouldn't have kids now because the world is struggling, which is really, really depressing and annoying, and something that I find to be getting even more annoying as time goes on. So we'll discuss that. Also, I heard that Tim mentioned the other day in a segment, he talked about the fact that Ozempic is making people go blind, supposedly. There's these studies that are linking Ozempic to blindness. What you don't know is that Hollywood doesn't care, and they're microdosing Ozempic because people in Hollywood are nuts. So we'll laugh at them during that segment too. So if you guys are ready, we'll get started. Phil, you ready?
Let's go.
All right. right?
Let's get to that Ozempic.
Well, we'll get to, don't worry. That's we'll have to wait to the end for that one.
I'm ready.
First thing that we're going to talk about today, guys, is Disney. So after years of flops like Encanto, Turning Red, Wish, Lightyear, Strange Worlds, The Marvels, Indiana Jones 5, and The Dial of Destiny, it has been discovered that with the recent presidential administration taking over, a lot of these companies are deciding to try and let the pendulum swing back the other way, at least a little bit. You know, I think a lot of it is performative, and it is mostly true in the fact here that Disney is looking to supposedly be pulling back some of their DEI policies, as well as they're changing the way content warnings are coming up on screen. But I think the reason why this is very interesting is it's not about getting rid of DEI. What it's doing is exactly what every corporation does when they want to obfuscate what they're doing, which is to make their language even more obtuse and indecipherable than it already is, which is actually really, really infuriating when you think about it. But I do want to read some of these headlines, and we'll go through a little bit. So this was from Variety. I'll read the head of HR's statement first, and then explain to you why it's not actually happening. So this is from Variety. It says Disney Plus to change content warnings ahead of Dumbo, Peter Pan, and more, and DEI strategy shift. So again, this is not a strategy shift. This is from their Chief Human Resources Officer, Sonia Coleman, who outlined the changes to the company's DEI efforts in a memo on Tuesday. Quote, creating a welcoming and respectful environment for our employees and guests is core to our company culture and our business. Our values, integrity, creativity, collaboration, community, inclusion guide our actions and how we treat each other. Today, I want to provide an update on how our values are embedded in our leader compensation programs. Those are what are called other performance factors. If you want to know what that is in non-corporate speak, it's bonuses for quotas. It's you have to reach this quota, you will make this amount of money. They're simply going to change the name of it. It will no longer be about DEI. It's about strategic. It's about company strategy.
Dude, I just read an article like literally right before the show where the University of Michigan did something exactly like that, where they got rid of all their DEI offices and just changed the name to just strategic planning coordinator.
Yeah,
and
that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
So
it's cancer.
It is,
it's cancer.
and you can't
annoying.
you can't get rid of it because look, we're seeing it a little bit with. I saw that PBS shuttered their DEI department because it's publicly funded. The same is true at a lot of these other businesses. And did you see that the FCC chair is looking to investigate NBC Universal because he said that they're not. He says you say you're closing your DEI departments, but I don't think you're doing it. That's because they don't have to. All they have to do is change the name.
Yeah, it's really the practice that the government is going to have to look at. They're going to have to look and see, are they hiring based on race? Are they preventing people from being hired, or are they hiring people based on the color of their skin?
Is it even possible to do that? Can't they just don't they have plausible deniability? Like, oh, that's just the person we like. How do you prove it outside of maybe memos?
What you have to do is you have to make it so painful if they're found to have done that it's not worth the risk.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened with the Civil Rights Act. Like, so these are all covered under the Civil Rights Act, the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And what happened was the government made it so that way, if you had been found to have been discriminatory, it was absolutely horrible for your business. Yeah. And so what they have to do is they have to make the same kind of results. If you have been found to be discriminatory, you have to pay a massive fine. Yeah. The kind of fine that'll put a lot of companies out of business, and that'll make it that it will disincentivize companies enough to not do it.
So it says, previously Disney evaluated executive bonuses using other performance factors called OPFs, including a diversity and inclusion metric. The metric has now been replaced with something called talent strategy. Which is as vague of a term as you could possibly ever get. In fact, I actually think it's more infuriating. Whatever you think about DEI hiring practices, I would rather they actually just stand on business and say, this is what we want to do, rather than saying, talking out of both sides of their mouths and saying, we want to do this, but actually we're going to just keep doing this because it's actually what we value. So they're telling their shareholders one thing and they're doing another thing because they're just changing the name.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're just faceless entities.
Yes.
Yeah, they're just faceless entities. I'm usually pretty good about that.
Yeah.
But It's why I don't really trust like we were talking about, what was it, Tuesday or Monday when I was last on, those Super Bowl commercials that were like the vaguely pro-America stuff. Like, I really don't buy it now that it's come back like the other way. It's just, they're doing the other shit behind closed doors still.
You have to kind of make a value judgment. Like, do you care whether they actually mean it or not? I tend to say that I don't go to corporations or celebrities for actual, like, for them to actually believe that they believe what they're saying.
Yeah.
I don't go to them for authenticity.
I go for entertainment and a product and a service.
So it says, while this sounds like a shift away from identity-based hiring, Disney admits that this new factor, meaning the strategic, the talent strategy department, will still include concepts of the former DEI system. In other words, they've just renamed it without necessarily changing the substance. They have also shuttered the Reimagine Tomorrow department, which is I'm sure is also going to be reopened under another label, right? But the point of that was what launched their desire to have 50% of their hires by the year 2022 be from marginalized groups. So it was the definition of race and gender-based casting for their projects and their shows. I don't expect any of this to actually ever equal out to any actual change because the language just gets more obtuse. I read this entire memo from this HR lady, and everything she says has no meaning. It's just a bunch of corporate doublespeak that doesn't actually mean anything. And you can only really judge these companies based on whether they're actually delivering products you actually like, right? So Captain America Brave New World is now out, and it has like it was like sitting at like 40-something% on Rotten Tomatoes. And that was just from the critics, which means that the audience score is liable to either be a lot higher because the audience ends up not agreeing with them, or maybe they fall in line. Very rarely do critics and audiences actually agree these days, but there's been all sorts of comments about why they chose to make the movie around Sam Wilson rather than making it around Bucky. And like I said before, I listed off a bunch of movies at the top of the segment that were all films that likely wouldn't have been made if these policies weren't in fact incorporated. And it's not just that, it's also the fact that they're looking to walk back some of the way that they do the content warnings at the beginnings of movies. Now, what's weird is like that stuff's never bothered me. Like, I know that bothers a lot of people. I care a lot when they change something that's in a movie. Like, did you guys see that they removed scenes from Crocodile Dundee on the re-released the re-released 4K? So
I don't want to watch old movies as re-releases or anything like that. If I'm not watching the original, like VHS or whatever, I don't trust them because whether it be Crocodile Dundee or E.T., they change the guns to walkie-talkies or whatever. Changing old things to reflect modern sensibilities is absolutely terrible. You're changing the story.
Yeah. It's crazy because to me, like so a lot of shows will end up on multiple streaming services, and I've actually seen shows that end up on multiple streaming services where one will have the widescreen re-release and one will have the original 4:3 aspect ratio, the box aspect ratio, and I will only watch it on the one with the original aspect ratio because it's just representative of what that actually looked like when I was a kid. Right? Love that. So this is what it says. So it says, as first reported by Axios and confirmed by Variety, Disney is changing the disclaimer that autoplays before these titles, and they were talking about these movies, Peter Pan, Dumbo, and other old movies, of their time is the language that they always use. The previous versions noted that it says includes negative depictions and or mistreatment of people or cultures, while the new version reads, this program is presented as originally created and may contain stereotypes or negative depictions. In 2019, Disney first added content warnings to movies such as Dumbo due to racist depictions found in the film created by Disney in the 1940s and 50s. The program is now presented as originally created. The warning previously said it may contain outdated depictions. I do believe that this is actually one of those things that ends up as much as it doesn't bother me, I think it ends up harming a lot of younger people who may not have been subject to the material in the first place. Because what it does is it actually makes them like worried about what they're about to watch. They're like waiting for the offensive thing to show up on screen, and it's actually destroying their ability to think critically about what they're watching.
Like trigger warnings are set people on edge, and I think that there's been studies that show that they're actually counterproductive. Yeah. Let the things that might shock people happen. Let them go by, because a lot of people don't even notice them. Yeah. A lot of the times they'll be like, "What?" and it won't register.
It implants the idea in your head that it's offensive.
Yeah. You're looking for problems when you don't need to be looking for problems. Watch the movie. If you pick up on an off-color joke, then I mean, it's not something that you want to, it's not something to be proud of, Disney, but at the very least you can say, well, this was something that was acceptable back then and it's not acceptable now. But the idea of trigger warnings and stuff, it's bad for people that are watching. It puts people on edge, and they don't make people less likely to be upset or irritated by something. They make it more likely.
I don't believe for a second that we're going to see the removal of these programs from these companies. All that's happening is that the language is going to be even more abstract, and it's going to be buried deeper in the literature around these companies. And remember, they're not focused on shareholders anyways. They're focused on stakeholders, which is a completely different ballgame. So we will have to wait and see. To your point, Phil, it's funny. I was actually explaining this to someone earlier. I was saying that content warnings, like you said, they put people on edge, and it kind of destroys critical thinking skills, because you don't like attack the material objectively. Mm-hmm. When I was very young at home, we had like a shower that was like very, very hard to find the right temperature on. So my dad marked like on the wall where you turn the knob to get the perfect like water temperature. He probably destroyed like a whole bunch of my ability to like problem solve on my own just by doing that. No? I think so. Sorry, Dad. If he's watching here, I apologize. All right, let's move on. I want to talk about a couple of movie trailers here. I don't get to talk about movie trailers that often. One, because anytime you do talk about movie trailers on here and you show them, you end up getting copyright claimed, which is always very, very annoying. But two, depending on what it is, we'll cover ones that tend to be controversial, but a lot of times there's just a lot of movies and stuff that come out that I actually want to see outside of that really awful Viola Davis trailer that just came out for G20, where she plays like it's like Die Hard meets White House Down meets, I don't know, something else, but it was really bad.
They really banked on Kamala winning.
They did.
That one. That's super hard.
I didn't really buy that argument that people were making for a while, whereas like these movies were made with the idea that that person was going to win. I think it might be true.
No, if any of them, it's that one.
But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about The Accountant 2. So, Phil, you have seen the original, correct? You've both seen the original?
Yes.
No.
It's a great movie.
You've never seen the original Accountant?
No.
Okay, you need to go and see it.
Okay.
Okay, you'll watch this. I do have some critiques of this trailer, which is that it's too long. But we will watch it here, and you guys can let us know what you think. It's like 3 minutes long for
it is
a trailer.
long. It is long.
Like there was like at least 3 parts in there where I was like, you could have cut it here and just stop the trailer. It would have been fine. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that was sold pretty early
trailers out of it.
So it's really funny because he has Asperger's in the movie. He's like a savant with numbers, hence the name The Accountant.
And the do you like puzzles?
Yeah, but it's funny because those depictions on screen are now considered dicier and dicier because you get called insensitive for doing any type of character like that a lot of the time, right? So I saw it. I wanted to see it. I did also like that they didn't try to give it like a clever name. That was what my tweet was. I was like, they just call it The Accountant 2.
Yep.
Like, I was surprised that they didn't try to go with something else. They should make a spinoff called The Auditor, though.
Yeah.
Like, given everything that's going on with the government right now, we could have The Auditor. Looks fun. And it's weird. 9 years have gone by. And Ben Affleck is more behind the scenes now than he is in front of the camera. He's more behind the camera now than he is in front of the camera. And he does a lot of producing. I think that might be why the movie takes a different tone. I don't remember if Artist Equity, which is the production company that he has, was even around when the initial one came out. But I did notice they brought like everyone back but Anna Kendrick, because Anna Kendrick is boring. And if you're in a movie with a character who's designed to be boring, you must be really boring. That's just
Anna Kendrick is boring.
She's very boring. That's just my opinion on that film. I want to see it. And he's gonna. There could have been so many schlocky lines that right there. Somebody says, "Balance them books."
Definitely schlocky lines.
Yes, I like it. Are there any things you guys are looking forward to looking at or watching this year?
I don't honestly.
I know you're not a big.
Everything's such a letdown. Like I want to look forward to the Captain America movie, but everything I hear turns me off. I like Harrison Ford. I like the guy that plays Captain America. Yeah. I like Bucky, which Bucky's not in the Captain America movie, is he?
No. Well, he's going to be in Thunderbolts, which comes out later in the year.
That looks interesting because it's not your typical what has become a typical Marvel movie, I guess. That looks somewhat interesting, but
I've seen more. It's so hard to gauge whether it's real excitement or not these days, but I have seen more growing excitement for that movie. The colors are just so drab and dark to me.
I expect movies in 2 years to be better than they are now because I feel like Hollywood has been, producing stuff that's coming out now has been in production for multiple years, and there have been people in positions of power, and when I say power, I mean like writers and producers that have had all the wrong incentives for a while. So now that there's a realignment of incentives, hopefully movies in the next couple of years will be better. But I mean, look, the Accountant 2 looks good. Yeah. I mean, the fact that there are movies like that being made, that's a positive step.
Ben Affleck, when he does like crime dramas, are always good.
I'd like to see I would like to see a straight up bad Affleck movie. Zack Snyder, bad Affleck. That's it. I don't have any interest in seeing
connection to anything else. Just make a one and done solo film.
You could do 3 of them. I really like Ben Affleck as Batman. I would love to see him as his own character.
He will have to get back on the TRT. He's not in shape.
I think that he should get on the TRT as well. And I haven't watched the Vampire guy Batman, and I don't have any desire to see the Vampire guy.
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, that's Robert Pattinson. That guy. I haven't watched his Batman movies. They didn't look.
It was so boring.
That's what I've heard. Yeah. They don't look appealing to me.
2 hours and 50 minutes. 2 hours and 50 minutes, dude.
I want Batman to have I want special effects. I want explosions. I want Batman to be cool.
There is some of that in that movie, but for the most part, it's a subdued crime noir, but it was just boring. Not in a good way. Not in an interesting way. But speaking of what is the opposite of that, and this is the opposite of that, one diamond in the rough. I love that this is a vertical video trailer, by the way. One diamond in the rough from last year, or I guess it was 2 years ago now, was the Peacock series Twisted Metal based on the video game. Look, I only ever played the first one on PlayStation 1. I don't know. You always find out years later that not only does the game keep going, but it's got its own like Sonic. Sonic has decades of lore now.
Oh, yeah.
But as far as Twisted Metal, I don't know if there's backstory that corresponded with the show, but I had a lot of fun with the show.
There is backstory that corresponds with the show. I know none of it because
there's game backstory.
Yeah, it came after the games that like the first one, because I only ever played that one, but I know just tangentially by friends who have played it
that there is.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the trailer for this.
The name's John Doe. Until a year ago, my life on the road was pretty routine. I met a drifter, we fell in love.
It's very Mad Max in its production design.
Yeah.
He had fire
but the
for hair.
joyride is over. The tournament is here. I'll need to end every last driver that gets in my way. No pressure or anything.
Calypso, and I invite you to compete.
I see a bunch of stuff that's probably callbacks to lore that I'm I don't care. Stuff's blowing up and there's destruction derby.
Fire.
Exactly. I want to see, you know why? Because when you see stuff that's made like this, people talk about how they want TV without an agenda. It's it's very hard to imagine where the agenda is shoved into to a show like that, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. That's just let me know what you guys think there. I shared those trailers on my Twitter. It seemed like a lot of people were excited for The Accountant 2. There was some people with critiques of Twisted Metal, but I think that those are overthought and they're actually really, really good.
Yes, they are.
So, all right. What would you guys like to see? Cringe or cue to the day?
I always want to start with cringe.
Cringe?
Get it out of the way.
Cringe.
Okay, so the funny thing about this cringe is I was having trouble finding the right one, and I was sending Phil another video right before we went live, and then the next video in the carousel was about perfect, but I'm not sure if we ever actually watched this before. I feel like this one might have actually already been cringe because the person who posted it said that they are resharing it from like a year ago. So you'll have to let me know whether this has actually been something we've seen before.
An open letter to white autistic and neurodivergent content creators. Why do you talk about disability justice but won't touch racial justice with a 10-foot pole? Why are you silent on issues like genocide, colonialism, and apartheid that overwhelmingly affect autistic and disabled folks of color? Why do you not mention in your explainer videos that racism affects every aspect of the autism experience too? From how the world perceives autistic traits and POC as racist character faults, even violent-worthy reasons for harassment and police brutality, to how medical racism makes healthcare access to diagnosis and beyond at times impossible, to how racism just compounds experiences with disability, like difficulty getting resources, a job, accommodations, or even just human decency from others for existing. Why do, even when you know all of this, do you expect autistics of color to do all the work for you of educating white folks because you don't experience it firsthand? For a community who preaches the strengths of neurodiversity, where is the diversity? The lack of inclusion of black and brown perspectives has always been appalling, but absolutely intentional to make influencers more popular and palatable for white comfort. But if your digital and real life communities only reflect people who look like you, that is a reflection of you, your values, and the people you represent and advocate for. If you don't like that, change it. Talk about it. But this whole avoiding topics that make you challenge the complexities of having white privilege while being marginalized in other ways is not enough. Choosing only to opt in when it means posting black squares or MLK quotes taken out of context is not enough. A quick footnote at the end of your content for everyone else is not enough. Racial justice is a vital part of disability justice. Start acting like it. An open letter to white.
Stuff that tard in a locker.
I feel like that house would be a really good set for like a slasher film.
It would.
Yeah, like it's kind of horrifying.
Watch pink go red. That was good. That was good. No.
She made some good points about white privilege.
We can watch it again. No. All right. It was worth a shot, guys. All right. Let's do cue to the day. Here we go. Layla Hedge says, this is pants. She has a lot of tude.
That kind of looks like a statue of a chicken, and I love it.
I like it.
That chicken does look like it's wearing pants, though.
It does. Let's do one more here. This one's from Stephanie Bell. Capone says he doesn't want me to go to work today. Me too, buddy. Me too. But I looked forward to, as always, listening to PCC. Well, yes, that is the point of this show.
We are here to entertain you.
You can
make your day better.
Put us on in the background while you're working and tune out. That's the whole point of this show. All right. Let's go ahead and get started then, guys. We got a bunch of stuff to get into today. There's a lot to talk about. So, recently we've talked about Jay-Z. We've talked about Kanye. We're back to talking about Diddy. You know, given everything, he's still in jail, and he is now leveraging a $100 million lawsuit against NBC Universal over a documentary that was made. Because like I said before, the number one thing that Hollywood and these industries do now is when somebody awful does something awful and they get caught, a documentary or a docu-series is immediately made almost at lightning pace to try and capitalize on it because it gives them the shield of saying, well, we're just exposing bad behavior. And they love that. They absolutely love that. So this is what it says. Sean Combs has filed a $100 million defamation lawsuit against NBC Universal, Peacock TV, and Ample Entertainment for defamatory statements published in the documentary Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy. Funny, I did like a whole thread last night, a very long post, because if you saw Ty Dolla $ign basically disavowed Kanye West and said like, there's no room for hate speech, and I understand that his music isn't inherently violent, but I just laugh at the idea that, you know, in rap music, which I grew up and still love to this day, where violent imagery has always been at least a major part of the genre. The idea that talking about killing people is okay is fine, but we stop at insulting people based on their race or gender.
187 on the mother.
Exactly.
Top. Come on.
The lawsuit,
It's built in.
The lawsuit filed on Wednesday in New York City asserts that the media companies falsely, recklessly, and maliciously accused Combs of serial murder and sex trafficking, among other claims by Al B. It says Al B. Sure. Rodney Jones, who has filed the lawsuit against Combs, and attorney Ariel Mitchell, among other sources. The documentary, Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy, premiered on Peacock on January 14th and looks into multiple claims against the mogul, most prominently Combs' alleged involvement in the death of his former girlfriend, Kimberly Porter, in addition to Biggie, Andre Harrell, Heavy D, and the attempted murder of Al B. Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is these kind of cases have been going on for 3 decades now? Yeah. I almost want to say 2 decades, but it's been way longer than that. And it's hard to actually put a time frame on it because it's back to the early 90s when you really think about it.
Yeah.
So this is what they said. Erica Wolf, Combs' attorney, issued a statement on the new lawsuit claiming that the media companies, quote, made conscious decisions to line their own pockets at the expense of truth, decency, and basic standards of professional journalism. She continues, grossly exploiting the trust of their audiences and racing to outdo their competition for the most salacious Diddy expose. Defendants maliciously and recklessly broadcast outrageous lies in the documentary. Defendants accused Mr. Combs of horrible crimes, including serial murder and sexual assault of minors, knowing that there is no evidence to support them. In making and broadcasting these falsehoods, among others, defendants seek only to capitalize on the public's appetite for scandal without any regard for the truth and at the expense of Mr. Combs' right to a fair trial. That's actually a really interesting point, because how do you even get a fair trial now in the social media age?
You
really
don't.
Can't. Can you imagine, there isn't a person who, if a case is big enough where they're actually going to be able to go to, unless every juror is 800 years old and doesn't have access to the internet.
Yeah, I mean, people do make up their minds long before they get into the courtroom, and trying to find jurors that aren't familiar with famous people is tough, especially people that are extremely online. I mean, I think that maybe you can find people that aren't. Maybe you still can, but I don't think that that's the incentive anymore. Your prosecution's going to want people that are inclined to dislike the person accused, and the defense is going to be inclined to find people that are non-biased. That right there,
or sympathetic to.
Well, not just sympathetic, because the people It's really, really, really hard to find someone that would be sympathetic to someone they don't know, right? It's easy to find someone that might have a negative opinion of someone they don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the charisma level of someone, it's tough to tell if the people that are in the jury would actually be like, well, I kind of like this person even though I don't know them. But it's easy to figure out people that would be like, well, I'm inclined to dislike that person.
What's crazy is when you're making thumbnails of Diddy, literally every photo he looks like a supervillain. He looks like an evil mogul in every photo. What you imagine an evil businessman looks like in a movie. It's exactly what he looks like in every photo. That's not to say that that's necessarily true. Obviously, we know he's a bad person because there's the video of him beating up his ex-girlfriend. He's a bad guy, but he looks comically evil in a bunch of them.
Cartoonishly.
Yeah, you're just bro, are you trying to? But apparently he was trying to look like that. What do you think? Do you think he ends up spending the rest of his life in jail, or does he end up getting out eventually?
I think he dies.
He dies in jail?
I don't know what the evidence. I don't know enough about the evidence against him.
I mean, these days I don't even know how much that matters. In these cases, I wouldn't be surprised if this case ends up he ends up being sentenced anyways because of a biased jury, even if there isn't a bunch of evidence in front of them.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah. What do you think about? So the whole point of my tweet before was talking about rap music and the violent nature of a lot of rap music, as opposed to necessarily the other types of rap music, which don't necessarily have to be like that. I tend to like both of them. But one discussion that seems to come up every time rap music is brought up is the idea that a bunch of people tell you that it isn't music. And that always bugs me because it seems very low IQ.
Calm down there, Tipper Gore.
Yeah.
The people that are like that, I think are very few and far between. Because my generation is very much very pro rap. I think that when Dr. Dre and the whole West Coast kind of, gangster rap stuff came out, that's when it solidified that rap was a part of American culture. It had already, like LL Cool J and the Beastie Boys, it existed beforehand, and they were really pioneers. But I do honestly think that,
or like NWA,
with Dr. Dre
West Side
and
Connection.
Yeah, with Dr. Dre, with NWA, Dr. Dre, Snoop Doggy Dogg. I mean, Snoop Doggy Dogg is on The Voice. Like he's in he's in big lighter commercials with Martha Stewart. And so to say that it's not, it's not music, it's like, come on. That is no different than when people say like heavy metal and hard rock isn't music. Oh, it's noise, etc. It's the same kind of boomer-esque stuff. Like Ben Shapiro doesn't have to like rap for rap to be quality music. You know what I mean?
What's funny is I feel like it comes up a lot of times when people are having the argument about movies, about whether a character has to look like you for you to feel represented, or as if you can't connect with the art unless the person who is making the art resembles what you look like. I actually think rap is a good example for my generation, because a lot of people, the target demographic, whether they want to admit it or not, back in the 90s was suburban white kids, because that was where the market share was. There was a lot of records to be sold to teenagers in the suburbs who wanted to listen to your music. And that music had a way of crossing barriers and crossing racial lines, because what they were making was cool. It was cool in the culture. It felt cool to the kids who were listening to it. It didn't matter if the people who were making the music didn't look like you. It didn't matter if the things they were talking about were far, far, far outside of your lived experience. You were able to cross racial lines based on art, and that was something that probably played a huge role in the way that we perceive the 90s as this colorless society, where the next generation of young kids didn't see color. All they saw was another person, and a big part of that was the way that we looked at art.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
I just, it's weird to me, because it feels like we're going backwards in a lot of respects. And then it kind of dovetailed perfectly with the rise of like Eminem and Tiger Woods at the same time, taking two things that were both uniquely considered racially homogenous in a lot of ways, and then flipping them on its head.
Swap.
The OG race swap, the original subversion of expectations.
Yeah.
Was that? Yeah. I kind of miss it. I miss it in a lot of ways. Maybe it's just because the technology means you're too connected to the world now, but just life felt more simple at that time. And now they try to force through subversion of expectations, where back then it was just because both of them were undeniably at the time the best at what they did, and people only saw the merits of the person who was doing it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. There's no question about at the time that, like when Eminem came out and when he was, in the aughts, he was the best in the world. Like he was the best going. Everybody was, significantly behind him. And the same could be said for Tiger. So
I just saw that Tiger Woods was with Trump recently. I think Tiger Woods' dad died recently.
Yeah.
I know that they're good friends.
Yeah, no, I mean, Trump and Tiger have always been good friends. They're golf buddies. I mean,
I wonder if it's like he makes Tiger teach him how
Wait a
to
minute,
golf.
I thought Donald Trump was racist.
That's what I've always been. I mean, but that's the thing though, right? Like a cursory example, a cursory search would be able to prove that wrong. Whether it's Tiger Woods or Ben Carson proves to you that that's not true.
Well, I mean, if we're being honest, though, having a couple black friends doesn't make you not racist, but I get your point.
Well, I'm saying, but that's by their logic, right? Their logic is they paint him out to be a cartoonish villain.
Well, yeah.
The same way, who would be evil to everyone. But then again, that's actually true that they, even if you give examples to the contrary, that's like they also say that even if you marry somebody of another race, you can still be really, really racist.
Look at Bill Burr.
Yes. Well,
racist.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that tomorrow. He's calling out the billionaires again with very, very violent imagery. I don't know. I as far as the Diddy stuff goes, the case has lost a lot of steam. It's not really in the news as much in the same way. As so many of these cases have been called out, and so many of them are John Does that there's very hard for anyone to actually pay attention and take it seriously when there isn't actual names attached to it. And if you remember, there was a claim made against Jay-Z where Jay-Z was actually had a lawsuit filed against him. That pretty much disappeared as soon as it came out. Jay-Z was he at the Super Bowl, and he was at the Grammys with his wife. She won Country Song of the Year or Country Artist of the Year. So it just doesn't feel like that case is actually going anywhere.
For Cowboy Carter.
Cowboy Carter.
What a piece of garbage that was.
Wait, was that this year?
That was this year.
And Post Malone didn't take it?
That's what I thought. That was
what
crazy.
The...
Like if the idea here is that you have to let modernity win and you have to give it to like a pop star, at least give it to Post Malone.
I think Jay-Z just sends actual threats. Like,
you don't think he sends money? Think he sends
no, he sends threats.
There's a 20.
He's a G. He's an original gangster. $20 from Dylan Dishner. Boys. Cheers to everyone, especially the second best metal vocalist named Phil to ever live. Cheers, man. Appreciate it.
So who is number one?
Phil Anselmo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very easy to take that
Who's 3 then?
Phil from
Genesis?
Whitechapel.
Oh.
The metal vocalist Phil from Whitechapel, yeah.
Okay.
He's badass, but he's badass.
I'd say Phil
really
Collins, you know.
But he's not a metal vocalist. That's part of the criteria.
Sussudio is fucking, metal as shit.
All right, let's move on then. We got a bunch of other stuff to get into. This one kind of hit me hard in a weird way because I see so much of this every day. I think it's because we have to read so much about celebrities' opinions, and so much of what you see from Hollywood, especially really, really far leftist celebrities, is a lot of cynicism, which really, really annoys me because I feel like most people benefit from trying to remain hopeful in a world that's constantly pounding you with negative information all of the time. Kathy Griffin says that it is not prudent for anyone to have babies at all on this planet. Also interesting because Elon Musk seems to always be talking about the contrary, saying that we're going to go through population collapse and that we're on our way out. So this is what she said, and she said it on Blue Sky because if you want to know the worst place in the world, just remember Blue Sky is just 2017 Twitter in perpetuity forever and ever until the end
I feel
of
like
time.
it's Twitter 2017, but like with zero like anyone else. There's nobody from the center or right. It's all leftist.
It is.
So it's like I feel like that makes it like Reddit, doesn't it?
Pretty much.
Isn't Reddit full to the brim of leftists?
I think I heard the other day that Serena Williams is married to the guy who created Reddit.
Really?
I guess. That's what I was reading. So this is what she says. She says, controversial take. It's not controversial. It's not where you are there. It may be controversial to us, kind of. But, that's like saying on Reddit that not having kids is a good idea. It's literally the opposite of that. Like when people on X say, hot take, but it's usually not a hot take. Just my personal opinion. Controversial take. It's probably not the most prudent thing for us to continue to have babies at all on this planet. Not talking about anything should ever be enforced that would prohibit from having babies. Just don't see how the planet we have left is sustainable for them, she said. I would like one of these people to
Who
cite
said that
some...
again?
Kathy Griffin.
Jesus.
Well, it tied into me with... Did you guys see the tweet from Neil deGrasse Tyson the other day where he was talking about why is it that when people successful people succeed, they thank God, but when they fail, they don't blame God? And the point I said was like, look, we want to be humble in victory and have humility. Like we want to be humble in victory and we want to take ownership of our losses.
Yeah.
Right. And
that's a good policy.
Like for everyone, that's a good policy. But it's like, why is there this return? Maybe it's just the election of Trump, but it's like we're seeing this return to like 2010 atheism and a bunch of nihilism. And maybe it's just because in my life personally right now, I'm going through like a bunch of big shifts in my real life. Like I'm getting married, moving on, we're looking to start a family, and you see all this stuff, and that's hopeful to me. And there's endless hope for the world, and you have to have that if you're not even just if you're going to have kids, but if you're going to commit to another person, you can't go through life in the type of mindset that it's all going to come crashing down.
Children are a physical manifestation of hope. You don't have kids if you don't have hope for the future.
How do you break people out of that spell then? Because that seems to still take a large hold of a lot of people these days. I
don't know, but avoiding pop culture stuff is probably a good way. Well, honestly, because if you're not exposed to that kind of stuff, if you spend your time around people that don't have that outlook, and you're not reading the stuff that they write, etc., like you're not gonna feel like the world is hopeless. You're gonna, because honestly, the things that are put out into the world by a lot of urban Westerners nowadays are ridiculous, and it's self-centered, and it's based on their own feelings, and they're all depressed because they don't have connection with their family or with their community, and like it's all this atomized life that a lot of people live, and they only communicate with people through the internet and stuff. And if you go other places where like family's normal and people hang out in real life together, they just don't have the same sense. They don't have the same sense of doom. You don't see that in other places in the world.
It's almost like it's an abstraction. Like a lot of people, it's like, oh, people are very different online than they are in the real world. It's like, oh, I met this guy. Like people have a persona online. And it's like, oh, I met him in real life and he was nothing like that. Mm-hmm. Well, that's all well and good, but that's not good if like your digital persona is telling everyone that the end is nigh and that there's no hope for anything.
I mean, there's a reason that the phrase touch grass is so used so much, because the truth of the matter is people spend too much time reading things online that cater to their worries, as opposed to reading things online that cater to their hopes.
Well, yeah. Do you remember when who was it, like John Krasinski or somebody started like a good news channel during COVID? And everyone's like, no, I mean, that's a great idea, right? But the problem is those don't last very long, because like I remember Breitbart has like their own like good news section of the paper. I forget, it's called like Be Inspired or something. But let's face it, that's subsidized by the bad news section that keeps everyone coming back for everything.
Absolutely. Like nobody, like the average person that has a good outlook on life doesn't read too much of the news. Yeah. They spend more time with their family. They spend more time with their community. That is the way that it should be, because people are not designed, like psychologically, we have not evolved to experience all the negative stuff that is going on around the world constantly.
It's that's whenever we had that one episode of IRL when you were filling in like I was in second chair, and I was talking about like we were like, are people more conspiratorial now? I'm like, yes. And is there more bad news? There was probably always that amount of bad news. The difference was you didn't have a device in your pocket that categorized and gave you all of the bad news all over the world. You weren't hearing about, okay, was anybody alive? Like, were you hearing about IRA bombings in the U.S. on a regular, in Ireland, in America?
No.
Like, I wasn't alive at the time. Was that playing on the news? I guess maybe on the nightly news.
Maybe, but the thing is, the news wasn't constant.
You'd get 2 minutes of it.
Exactly.
And then you'd go on about your day. Now you get 10,000 notifications on your phone of all of the awful things that are going on in the world. Who wouldn't be depressed?
We got a $20 from Daniel Day Corica. My friend's rap group Villains shot their video for Beer and TV at my old house on Long Island. The video is on YouTube.
Let's go.
Let's go. Check it out.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You weren't designed. I wasn't designed. Nobody was designed to take in nothing but bad news all the time.
Correct.
And it's damaging to people. So I guess I can see where it comes from. Most of the time when it comes to these Hollywood elites, I tend to think it's just a certain level of elitism. Like they almost laugh at the idea of like trying to get the rest of the world to sterilize themselves in service of their own agenda because they're ideological pigs. But there was some responses to her post on Blue Sky, which I can imagine are just as bad. So this one says, Griffin's followers on Blue Sky overwhelmingly seem to agree. Both my kids, 28 and 23, said they are not having kids, which I have to say I'm happy about. I have 3 grandchildren and 2 cats and 1 dog, and that's good enough. So they're like, good, stop the bloodline.
Yeah, like she said she's got 3 grandchildren. Yeah. So she's already got the grandchildren. Yeah. She's already got the things that she wants. So now the other ones you guys shouldn't have. It's just narcissism. It's so gross.
Cats and dogs are better anyways, somebody says. No. 2 billion humans is the current estimated capacity of our planet if we want to live sustainably.
That's literally
insane.
Wrong.
That's totally wrong.
It's like 10 billion by current metrics, and that's not factoring in technology growth.
Unfortunately, they continue. Unfortunately, our brains are hardwired to view procreation as a goal. We need to realize that it is a vestigial evolutionary quirk and start reducing our population.
I love how you can just boil leftism down to, I am better than my own biology. I am better than science.
They literally see it that way.
Yeah,
they
they are.
Yeah.
Idiots.
I can't with it. And I guess maybe it's just because I think about it more. Like, there was a time in my life, not to go personal, but like when my life was in disarray and I was a mess, and I had not necessarily a nihilistic look on life, but pragmatically I had accepted that my life was this way and I didn't see a way out of it. Now, that didn't last forever, and thanks to a lot of different things coming together, I was able to get out of it. But I understand that that is true of a lot of people. But the thing is what it was for me was coming out of a bunch of bad choices. You know, it was a poor life of my own design. And a lot of times this is the same thing for them. It may not be something like drug use or addiction or something like that. It's just an addiction to negative news and a cynical worldview. And it's very hard to bring people back to the world when the world is then in their pocket. Like, we've talked endlessly about the examples where when somebody's in a cult, right? Like in like a physical place with a group of people, they would hire people to like get them out, to physically remove them from the situation, to try and deprogram them from the environment they were in, because they are basically brainwashed into ignoring their family, ignoring their friends, isolating them. You can't do that now when somebody is brainwashed through their phone. Through bad news, when their worldview has been shaped by constant influx of negative information. And maybe in a lot of ways, the only way to do so is that you have to muscle up and get out of it yourself and grow as a person, whether that's through starting a family, finding a new purpose, through hobbies or work. But how do you expect people to be able to do that when so much of it seems to be connected to celebrities and influencers and news outlets and politicians who want to sing to you doom and gloom all of the time? I just, I have more faith now because I feel like if I can get out of it and move on, then a lot of other people can. Yep. But that's on my good days, right? It doesn't mean I still don't have those bad days where cynically I'm like, how do you expect anyone to change?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, especially seeing as like you have to want to change in the first place. Like that's a big part of the problem is like people feel like they can't change, or they feel like, well, there's no hope, so I don't want to put the effort in. And for any change, you have to actually want to change. Yeah. You know. Yeah. All right. So, what else you got for us there, Brett?
Oh, I'm asking I'm telling the chat crisis party right now.
Oh, crisis party! Come on,
we're
guys.
almost. Yes, we're almost there.
Come on, crisis party time.
All right. We'll
give it a little nudge.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it, guys. All right, let's move on. So the other day, I saw a bunch of people talking about this correlation between people taking Ozempic and going blind. You know, you see everywhere these days. We were at the mall recently and saw just ads for Ozempic on the billboards inside the mall, not even talking about diet and exercise, just saying, you know what, take drugs to get thin. But it's not just that. You know, in Hollywood, do you guys remember when a couple of years ago or like a decade ago, they would talk about everyone in Silicon Valley microdosing like MDMA and LSD and stuff because they wanted to open their brain wider? Well, those in Hollywood are microdosing Ozempic.
Nice.
I mean,
I laughed at this. Okay. So it says, this is a woman named Samira Shamoon. She's a 44-year-old health and beauty publicist. And this is what she says. She joined the wave of people who are taking limited amounts, not of psychedelics, to which the microdosing trend usually applies, but of the diabetes drug Ozempic and other GLP-1 receptor agonists.
Diabetes drug Ozempic.
That's what it is. Yeah. It's to treat diabetes.
Okay.
Off-label use is rampant now. They are doing it not primarily for weight loss. The effect has made Ozempic a Hollywood staple and reliable award show punchline, but for the surprisingly and widely touted side benefits, particularly its anti-inflammatory properties. Gone are the days that you take some ibuprofen. You're now going to microdose your Ozempic.
I think ibuprofen's all right.
I'd rather shoot myself with some Ozempic
than take ibuprofen, really?
Yeah, man.
Rather than injecting the regular introductory weekly dose, people are only taking half the amount or less. As a runner, Shamoon was also fairly svelte. That's excellent use of that word in there. And though she didn't mind the side effect of dropping 4 pounds, it was losing the puffiness in her face that drew her to the prescription drug. She also found it intriguing, the promise of increased mental clarity and a decreased risk of heart disease, Alzheimer's, and multiple sclerosis. Look, there are plenty of days when doing the show where I would love the ability where... So one of the things that I found is like when you do this show, there are days, and I actually tweet about it a lot, where it's like some days it feels like it all comes together and it goes really, really smoothly and my brain is super clear. And then there are other days where it's like I've never thought something in my life and I can't seem to parse together.
I've never thought a thing ever.
I don't know if that's true of anyone else. Like,
no, I get that.
But there's a million things that you can do before drugs to try and figure that out. A big part of it is diet, right? Like,
yes.
Originally what it was like too many carbs right before eating or right before doing the show. Like any amount of bread right before doing the show, and I'd be like, the Biden meme.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Like any amount of any bread before the show for some reason, because it ties in with feeling like drowsy, which you get from carbs as well. So I'd be doing the show and I would just notice that I couldn't put together my thoughts as clearly. And I don't know why that is, but some days it's just easier than others.
Apparently Adderall helps that.
That's
you can't do any of that stuff.
Sadly, that's a big part of it for me, was that I spent most of my life on Adderall. So when I got sober and I went through rehab, got clean and everything, I had to relearn how to live without it, as far as like organization techniques, and all of it is still very, very much a struggle a lot of the time for me. Like most of it is like, if we're doing the show, it might not help necessarily, but prep, absolutely. Like note taking and structure, absolutely. And I wish that I could find the magical cure, but I don't think that exists other than through pharmaceuticals.
Hey, I'm a big proponent of Adderall. You know,
I'm a big proponent.
How did you handle the shortage last year? Wasn't there a shortage?
It's still going on.
Is it still going on?
It's fucking ridiculous. Fuck the DEA. I hate them all. And they can come for me at that. Yeah.
So this was the other story. It says more Americans on Ozempic go blind as doctors sound the alarm over potentially startling side effect. Isn't it crazy how it's like the drug's been on the market for ages and ages and ages, and just suddenly now they're like, oh, by the way, people are going blind?
Yeah.
Wasn't it like a year or two ago, like whenever people started first using Ozempic for like weight loss and stuff, like they were starting to get like Crohn's disease and diverticulate, like these weird like illnesses from the use of it?
Well, a lot of times they'll be like, well, correlation is not necessarily causation. There's like a bunch of other things that could cause it. We're like, yeah,
but that one needle that you were doing daily in your stomach, you know, maybe that wasn't good.
And this is another substance that's getting even harder to find too, or it's so expensive. We did a story recently where this lady was she spent her entire life savings on getting a makeover, and then now she has to get another job to be able to afford her Ozempic, and even then she has to like ration out her doses rather than taking it every day or every week. She takes it every other week or something like that. And they talk about the idea of like intrusive food thoughts. Where, I mean, no, the idea is like, you know, everyone, you can eat well all day, but do you eat well or do you not eat from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. before you go to bed? Because that's the problem for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, my previous work schedule didn't allow for that, but...
Yeah. So it says one woman injected 1 dose of semaglutide for her diabetes and woke up the next day blind in her left eye.
That's horrifying.
That's terrible.
This prompted her to stop the medication for 2 months before her diabetes forced her to go back on it. And that's even crazier. It's like she had to go back on it. I figured they treated diabetes other ways before Ozempic existed.
Yeah.
But it's like, so she went blind, and now they're saying you have to keep taking it.
They treated it with insulin, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah, no, she probably needs a pump and doesn't want it. That's probably her problem.
Another woman who had been taking semaglutide for a year woke up one morning with a painless shadow over her left eye. Testing revealed blood vessels in her retina had become damaged, leading to blindness. I imagine that this is one of those things where like the government lobby for this medication has got to be insane now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's no way, like, anything's going to be pulled off the market.
Yeah, I mean, just the way that even, like, things that are more like have a more justified usage, like Viagra or something. Like you look at the commercials, like they're coming out for that now. And it's just like, hey, take one of these whenever you're feeling frisky. Like, you know, have some fun, guys.
The in the chat, somebody says, have you or a loved one been affected by the use of Ozempic? Like that could end up happening down the line. Did you see that we made a joke one time about Rowdy energy drinks, which we used to have at the castle, and I made the joke where it's like they got pulled off the market. They don't make them anymore. And I was like, it's with our luck, we're gonna find out later. It's like, have you or your friends taken drinking Rowdy energy drinks? You might be entitled to compensation. Turns out there was like lead in them.
That's true of like a lot of energy drinks too. Like,
well, you know, lead on. But I enjoyed it while I had it. That's the real thing. One suffered bleeding in his left eye after taking medication for a year. However, doctors told him to keep taking the drug due to a lack of evidence linking his condition to the weight loss shots. So they're like, we know you went blind when you took this, but just keep taking it. And this is kind of the thing now, right? Is the medical industrial complex. It's kind of how we've talked about what happens with one of the reasons why trans was something that was pushed so heavily is that these create patients for life for a lot of these medications. And they are going to make you a patient for them until the day you die. And it's pushed by Hollywood, who turns it into a joke, even though it's not even an open secret because it's not a secret at all anymore. Tons of celebrities are just open about taking it. And it's crazy.
It's the quest for vanity, man. It never ends.
It really does feel that way sometimes.
I mean, the argument for GLP-1s as a means to get gigantic people to a point where they can exercise is good. Beyond that, it does take changing your lifestyle to not go back to being gigantic.
Yeah, like if you're 500 pounds, like you physically can't move and exercise. Like your body won't allow.
It hurts too much.
Like sometimes for some of these people, like their bodies just won't move in the ways that they need to like start actually pushing their body. So for like you said, it's great for that.
What is the best low impact way for cardio? Swimming.
Swimming, yeah. Swimming, then probably, I mean,
bike?
Walking. But I mean, if you weigh too much,
just do anything.
Anything like walking is gonna bust up your knees and stuff. Like if you weigh too much, so it's super hard. Your best bet is get into a pool. You know, get into the water and swim.
Is that because it's naturally like holds you back and you have to push forward?
Because it's buoyancy.
Yeah.
It literally takes weight off of your joints. Yeah. Fat floats, and so it literally makes you weigh less, so you can move through the water. There is resistance, like you're saying, but the real thing about it is you're moving in water. And it takes the weight off of your joints, so it makes it possible for you to actually get your heart rate up and burn calories without hurting your joints and stuff.
Like I always preferred biking to walking. Like I've explained before, like it's actually been infinitely harder for me now because when I was living in Minnesota, I just didn't drive. Yeah. So I walked or biked to get everywhere that I went. I skated 7 days a week and I walked or biked to get to whatever spot that I was skating at. So I was in very, very good shape despite a poor diet because I literally had to walk or bike.
How long ago was this as well?
I moved out here in 2021.
So it was 2020, 2019,
2019 to 2020. A bunch of years before that, but I was skating as that consistently from like 2019 to 2021.
Well, the point that I'm making is as you get older, your metabolism slows down. So it's a combination of things.
And it's crazy too, because like at that point, I was in my mid 30s and I was probably the most consistent I had ever been skating wise. And I was in the best shape that I had ever been just because even in your prime, you were still driving to get everywhere. You weren't eating healthy. You weren't living well. So, you know, it's very, very hard to commit to the lifestyle changes unless a lot of times it's easiest when it's forced upon you and you don't have a choice otherwise. But if there is a path of least resistance, people tend to go for the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not easy. I would like to know what you guys think about celebrities with Ozempic because as dangerous of a medication as it is, it's really weird to see stories of like Oprah and you hear how she used to be part of Weight Watchers and then you hear now that basically everyone has kind of abandoned the calories in, calories out, paying attention to what you're eating thing in favor of medications, which is very, very sad to me.
Yeah.
So, All right, guys, let's read some super chats and then let's just hang out today, guys. We're gonna do so, and then tomorrow we're gonna be getting into the Bill Burr stuff. I've got some Chapel Roan updates for Phil tomorrow. You're gonna love that.
She looks like a foot.
Did you see the Photoshop? Mm-hmm. Did you see that Photoshop? That was great. That was great. All right, Shane H. Wilder says, "Happy Thrashing Thursday, Brett, Phil, and Andrew. Boys. Mary is going to be pissed when she finds out about the Taco Bell." Yeah, she is. She's absolutely going to be pissed. Though, I did have to endure sour cream today, and I hate sour cream. No?
Condolences.
Yes, it was very, very sad.
I could take it or leave it.
What'd you have?
I had a Crunchwrap.
Yeah.
And then I, drenched it in hot sauce.
All right. Greg Duvier says the new album for All That Is Left Anti-Fragile destroyed my legs yesterday. Now I can't walk. Thanks, Phil.
Stuff.
Let's
Good
go.
Stuff.
See, that's Phil's best bet is to help people by saying, "Listen to my album at the gym."
Right. Go to the gym.
Go to the gym.
Go to the gym.
James Kodoridis. I only know how to pronounce that because Mary gets it right. James Kodoridis says, "Would Adam D quit music if he couldn't wear a cape?"
No, he wears a cape. The whole like Adam D looking ridiculous thing comes from like all the bands, like it was in response to bands like Slipknot and bands like Mudvayne and bands like Mushroom Head and stuff. He was basically saying, look, these guys are all wearing costumes and stuff and it's silly. And nowadays, like almost every band coming out has that kind of theatric aspect. It's hard to be just a band starting that doesn't have some kind of look.
Like a gimmick?
Sort of, like whether it be Ice Nine Kills or whether it be a band like Sleep Token or a
Ice
band
Nine
like,
from a Kurt Vonnegut book.
I have no idea.
I think so.
But like the point is like even bands like In This Moment, they're a big band and they do a whole bunch of theatrical stuff. It's hard to be a band nowadays that's just playing music. That people really want imagery to go along with that.
Does that go in waves?
And when Killswitch is getting started, bands like Slipknot had just come out, bands like Mushroom Head had just come out, and they were doing the whole wearing the jumpsuit. Everybody wore a mask and stuff. And so Adam was like, "This is silly. I'm gonna be silly on stage too."
Does that go in waves, like the types of bands that get big at the time? Because like in wrestling, there was always waves where like a lot of times it used to be you were just playing a character like The Undertaker or Kane or something like that, or their job, like their gimmick was they were a job. They had like a jobber profession. Like what was the one that Kane was? He was like Dr. Yankum. He was a dentist. Mm-hmm. But then now it's mostly just people with names rather than gimmicks, and it would go in waves. Is that true of music?
So I think there was
Isaac
in the
Yankum.
90s there was a backlash to the whole like the hairspray and that kind of band, right? Like the bands that look like
the
Poison,
80s?
the glam bands in the 80s. And well, no, in the 90s is when it happened. It was like
No, but from bands from the 80s.
Yeah, from the 80s.
Yeah.
So like that's what Nirvana was. That's what the whole grunge thing was. It was like we're serious musicians. Not that the hair bands weren't. You had to be really great at what you did to be able to perform in those bands. But the 90s was really a backlash to that, and you ended up with bands like Pantera. Even in the metal community, bands like Pantera. A lot of the thrash bands didn't want to look like glam bands. They were avoiding that. And then you had like all your grunge bands. And then after grunge kind of did its thing through most of the 90s, then you saw bands like Slipknot and bands like, like the aforementioned Mudvayne and the new metal bands that kind of had a look that went along with them. Then that kind of went away a little bit again. But nowadays, I think it's a totally different thing because of the fact that social media is so important for bands. And music is essentially free, right? Like, so because of the fact that streaming is a thing, you don't have bands that are looking at record deals the way that they used to look at record deals. Nowadays, if you can get big as an artist on social media, you don't really need a record deal the way you used to, because you can just put your music on the internet and your fans will pick it up. So you have, what you really need is a reason for your fans to come look at your stuff. And a lot of times you need that visual along with it. So I don't know that it's ever going to go back to the way that it was before because of social media. I do think that imagery is going to be a part of it because you're looking for a whole package to present to the listener or the viewer, actually, because it's not going to be just putting on headphones to listen to music anymore. Those days are gone.
What's next?
I have no idea.
No idea?
I remember.
But I do think that it's going to be like, I think that imagery is important. I think that the bands that, or the musicians that come in the future. Hey, there we go.
There we go. Time for number 2.
I think that bands like Sleep Token that have imagery as part of their thing, they're going to be, it's going to be something that's necessary. Because Sleep Token's a great, musically, Sleep Token's probably the most innovative and cool band going right now. The most, at least recently. And I think that they don't, in another time, they wouldn't need the imagery, but I think that because of what the music world and what the content world is like nowadays, I think the imagery is extremely important.
Part of that is down to also like the prices that goes to like to see a show live, where it's like if there's not something that, like you're saying, something extra to hook you in. Where
no, because that was always filled in with like that was filled in with like the stage show, but like. I mean, so like Iron Maiden was cool, and you had like, it's cool when you had fire and explosions and stuff, but that didn't mean that the artists had to dress up. You know, like guys like Iron Maiden didn't get dressed up beyond just putting on like stage clothes. They didn't have like theatrics in that way. It was just, they had fire, they had Eddie come out over the thing, they had cool lights, and they had explosions, and maybe they had smoke, but that was it. Like Rob Halford they'd all dress up in their kind of their metal looking gear.
BDSM gear.
Well, yeah, it was Rob Halford. But I mean, and he'd drive a motorcycle out, but it wasn't like they were trying to be like monsters or whatever. They were just dudes in a metal band. And again, fire, pyro, lasers, those kind of things were a normal thing. Even like Five Finger Death Punch, right? Those guys, they don't dress up as in anything other than put on something that looks interesting. So when I went and filled in for those guys, I went out there and I was like kind of doing my normal thing, and they were like, "Hey, look, can you get some? We're gonna get some stuff for you to wear for this run. That's just something interesting, right?" And so it was like shorts with like the urban camo, so it was gray, black, and white shorts, and like I wore a Five Finger Death Punch shirt and stuff.
Just reach into Ivan's closet.
No, it wasn't any Ivan stuff. But the point is, like, if you look at the way Ivan dresses or the way that Zoltan dresses, they're wearing things that it's not like a cohesive theatrical thing, but it's something that's interesting. Like Ivan wears like, he wears shirts that are like one half is red, one half is white. Or
got that big graphic on it.
Yeah, something that makes it kind of look interesting so you stand out on stage. And I think that is something that's probably going to be predominant in the future, but I don't see it coming back to being just like dudes wearing normal clothes like the way that it used to be, like the flannels of the 90s and stuff.
All right. Kyle Leadingham says, just listen to a podcast with Matty Mullins from Memphis May Fire, and Brett sounds exactly like him and it's wild. And Phil, huge longtime fan of All That Remains, is one of my longtime favorite bands.
Thank you. Cheers, man. I appreciate it.
I don't know who that is. I've been also told I look like Charlie Day. Or sound like Charlie
There's
Day.
a little bit of Charlie Day in there, especially when you're speaking, when your voice gets a little bit intense.
Yeah. It's so funny. There was like a week, like last year. It might have been 2 years ago now, where I was sick I was under the weather, and the whole week my voice was just deeper and gruffer. And I'm like, why can't I sound like that all the time? It's very sad. It's very sad. It's crazy how much it can make you sound different. I listened to this podcast, a wrestling podcast called Solomonster Sounds Off, and he was sick. Like you could he didn't even sound like the same person. He sounded like a completely different person. Like if I had turned the podcast on, not knowing what I was listening to, I would have never pegged that it was that guy. It was crazy. Greg Duvier says, "Damn it, Accountant 2 Electric Boogaloo." Yeah, they could have called it that. They could have. I said I listed a bunch of ones, but I still think that making a spinoff for The Auditor is good. Maybe they can have Chuck Dixon write that, like he did for the Man, that movie with Jason Statham that's coming out soon. Working Man. Serenko Productions says, "Why are you talking about your autism when there's a femicide going on in the Congo?" That is absolutely true.
Femicide.
Yep, there's a femicide going on somewhere at all times. Andrew Kanoy says, loving the new album, Phil. After the show, I'm going to put it on, get stoned, and clean my kitchen.
Sick.
The Piper is my favorite. That wasn't a single.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Shane H. Wilder says, stuff that tard in a locker. Phil Labonte, 2025.
That was a good comment.
I mean, I'm almost positive that maybe it was just that whoever that creator was made a video that Mary sent me at some point that we watched on the show for like cringe of the day.
It screwed your algorithm.
Yeah, well, no, because it would have been ages ago. My algorithm now is all it's back to all skating stuff. But like, so much of it is like you see that and like. It's repeating in your brain, so it becomes like a weird form of deja vu. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I saw this before, but I'm not 110% sure.
I got that when like YouTube Shorts first came out, and like I start seeing like things on there. I'm like, didn't I just see this on TikTok like a week ago? And then I did, yeah.
All right, Dull and Tired says Ben Shapiro types will hate on rap music, but don't mind making money off of it. Record owners, if you know, you know. Hashtag noticer.
He's just noticed something out here.
He's one of the noticers. I still love rap music. I will never not call it music.
I'm a Moneybagg Yo fan.
There you go.
Some Pooh Shiesty.
What You Want is a great song.
Dude, it is.
Yeah. Brian Bledsoe says, I vote for Chaircast Monday. Hey, we could do that. Like, if the idea here is that you'd rather have any show rather than no show at all, you know? I mean, they did IRL Chaircast for like several hours.
That wasn't planned.
No, I mean there'd have to be a swatting.
Easy.
Yeah, no ideas.
All right. No Control says Crisis Party time.
Crisis Party time. Let's go.
Oh, we did. Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's get to a second Crisis Party. Brian Bledsoe says believe Disney when they release Song of the South. I don't think that's ever coming back, man. I don't think that one's ever coming back.
Was that the one from like 1911?
Yeah. Long time ago. Shane H. Wilder says, sorry guys, I'm trying to get you to a crisis party while making a short of Mary as Charlton Heston with Taco Bell screaming from my cold dead hands. Yes, that is true. Somewhere today, RFK got really mad at us because we ate a bunch of Taco Bell. I am sure his eyes went red.
I think that he probably decided that today was going to be a day when he wouldn't pay much attention to that stuff because he was busy being confirmed.
I think he's probably celebrating too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And celebrating with Taco Bell.
Who else are they waiting? So they haven't confirmed Kash Patel yet.
Kash Patel is the only. Kash Patel hasn't. The next person that I think might have a problem would be his labor secretary, and the reason is because she's a very, very pro-union person, and I think that she would get resistance from Republicans, and if she and I think that there wouldn't be a lot of MAGA people that would be upset about the fact that she's getting resistance because she is a pro-labor, pro-union kind of person.
When are they supposed to vote on?
I don't know for sure, but he appointed her because he made a promise. He's like, I will appoint someone that's labor friendly, blah, blah, blah. He didn't guarantee that they would get confirmed, though. So,
James Higgins in the chat says RFK sees all of you. Like I said, that's fine. He's not taking anything from me. Okay. Dylan Dishner says, Phil, I was indicating that Phil Bozeman is number one. You're amazing, but he's got godlike talent, and his enunciation is impressive.
Phil Bozeman over Phil Anselmo? I'm not sure that I agree about that.
Fight.
I'm not sure that I agree with that.
All right. The Manic Mustache says, fun fact, the DuckTales comic strip was the inspiration for Indiana Jones, but Darkwing Duck was not a spinoff. Stay toxic. Boys. He did boys with a Z.
Ooh.
See, life was better when everybody ended S words with a Z.
Was it, though?
Yes.
I don't know about that.
Things were way more extreme at that time. Everything was an X and then treme. Joe T says, the new Viking berry monster tastes like Haribo berries. Awesome. The black and red
berry
ones.
monster, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, if I was more focused on self-improvement, I would drink less of them, but I try to limit my consumption on the weekends. Alvin McGoth says, one more week until the post-punk band, what is that? Molecat Doma is in town for me. I've had tickets from a friend and I for months. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly.
Well, enjoy the show.
Molecat? Does anybody know what that word means? No?
Right at the beginning of COVID, I was supposed to go see Asking Alexandria and Wage War at the same concert, and it was like, the same month that they were supposed to that the lockdowns happen. It's fucking brutal.
In the chat, Mike Herrera says no Mariners hat, Brett. No, today there's a it's the Rochester Red Wings, which is a Minnesota minor league team. So I actually can't wear the hat during the show because I usually have to end up like taking it off and fixing something, and then it just becomes a whole thing during the show.
I was kind of hoping it was like a copyright strike
or
something.
No, I don't think that is.
Minor league baseball teams want their money.
I did see somebody mention Big Balls in the chat. That's who would be the auditor. See, if they did an auditor movie, that's who would end up playing him. Weary Traveler says, Sleep Token sucks, not gonna lie.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Go on.
Well, they're like, you can dislike the stuff they do, and that's fine. But to say they suck implies that they're bad at what they do, and that's just objectively wrong. Like, it's perfectly fine to have the opinion that I don't like them. That makes perfect sense, okay? But to say they sucks implies that they're bad at what they do, and they're not bad at what they do at all.
Most of that is just how, like, the reason I will never be good at Twitter is because I don't have the ability to be concise, and I'm always assuming that somebody's going to take what I'm saying literally rather than as my own opinion. And when somebody says this band sucks, most of the time you would assume that a smart person knows that they're just telling you their opinion rather than trying to state an objective fact. Like, there's a lot of, like, I say a lot of, like, it's like, I'm like, this show sucks. Is the show poorly made, or do I just not like it?
Yeah, like, I think it's just more baked down to colloquialism at that point.
Yes.
Like, what we as society, it's like, you know, if we as the society decide to call the thing in front of us not a table, like, you know.
Yeah.
It's just a word.
Yep. All right, Shane H. Wilder says, okay, Mary Charlton Heston is up everywhere. You work quick, my friend. Aren't you at work right now? I thought you were usually at work at this time.
This is his work.
No Control says, that's what I like about All That Remains. Mostly just regular dudes playing music and normal things. Not demonic BS, not full of themselves.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thor Williams. It's an awesome name. I hope that's your real name. I hope your name is actually Thor.
Like Tor.
Well, that's not fun. Have you heard of Starset? If not, then check them out, especially their new stuff.
I do know who Starset is, yes.
I do like the idea that he says, check out the new stuff, not the old stuff.
We used to have the same manager.
Oh, really? Okay. Shane H. Waller says, never forget the godfather of theatrics, of theatric rock, Alice Cooper, been getting his head chopped off on stage since 1968.
I mean, yeah.
You don't seem too convinced.
Well, I mean, he is there. You know, whether it be, you know, Alice Cooper, or there's like people that would say Kiss because they put on the whole, you know, makeup and stuff. But I mean, I'm not interested in being like, well, this guy did it first or whatever.
It's not helpful.
Yeah, and also because when it comes to like who the first person that did it, like, it all goes back to Broadway. And it goes back to plays, right, and musicals. So, I mean, yes, the first rock person that did it might have been Alice Cooper. It probably was Alice Cooper. But the concept was was taking things that were done on Broadway and bringing it to a different type of music. So, you know, I mean, that could be, or was like Rocky Horror Picture Show. Yeah. Like, there's an argument that could be one of the, you know. So, again, I'm not saying these wrong. I don't want to get into the who did it first, or to me, it's not an interesting conversation because you can go all the way back to you know, to Broadway or to plays and ballet and stuff like that. So.
Plus, remember, Alice Cooper will inform you that it's not pronounced Milwaukee. Yep. It's Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land.
We're not worthy.
We are not worthy. All right. Zach Yandel says, list 5 chaotic neutral YouTube commentators and would you let them guest? Chaotic like who is like, when I think of chaotic neutral, I think of somebody who wants to bring about chaos but doesn't really care who it is that they bring it about on.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't watch it, like, so the YouTube that I watch now is almost exclusively long form movie retrospectives and very little to do with like streamer. I never watch live streams, and I watch very little short form content. I will watch some content creators that are in this space.
Someone said Elijah Schaefer's chaotic neutral. That might actually be true.
Is it?
Yeah.
Maybe.
But
he's
most
very
of it,
trolly.
he is. It's though I like it when he's on IRL because it means if I'm on, I don't have to say anything.
I would say Milo is too.
I mean, I'm not sure if Milo's neutral.
All right. Weary Traveler. Oh no, I missed one here. Omega Red Fan says Devon and Bubba Ray, the Dudley boys. Yes, they were, and the Dudley boys were awesome. Weary Traveler says, very true, Phil. I kneel.
Cheers.
And one more here from Schrodinger's fuckery. Mary says Effery. I'm just saying it. So, Phil, thoughts on Scott Weiland, and did you meet him?
I never met Scott Weiland. No, I thought his name was
Weiland.
Scott Weiland from STP. No, he's a great
Is it
singer.
Weiland or Weiland?
I think he's Scott Weiland.
Okay,
that's what I've always called him. He's a great singer. Don't do drugs. Drugs are bad.
that is true.
You know. But no, I didn't. I never got the chance to meet him.
There are some more lists that people are giving of chaotic neutral. Destiny and Milo, imagine the clash.
No, Destiny is evil.
Yeah, Destiny's not neutral.
Primetime Alex Stein.
He's maybe chaotic good.
Yeah, I'd say that because like if you talk to him like as a human, it's like you can actually see he has like a you know.
Destiny's neutral evil.
No, Destiny's just fucking evil.
Maybe. Well, no. I mean, there's some kind of a line. There's chaotic, neutral, or there's chaotic, lawful, and neutral, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Terrence Rice says Asmongold. Maybe. I don't know. I don't want to
know.
say
He's
Yeah, I don't know enough about
good.
him. Yeah, I don't know enough about him to say for sure, but.
Tyrannus Cygnus says Melanie Mack.
She might be lawful good.
All right.
The whole religion thing that she's got going on.
Bagel Bites. That's an awesome. See, and he spells his, and he does a Z at the end, which see, we're already getting back to the late '90s. This is awesome. He says Clownfish TV would make great guests. Love them. Yeah, if I watch any short form content about stuff in this sphere, it's usually stuff from Clownfish TV, which I really, really, really enjoy. I really enjoy the insider insights that they bring to like the media industry, not necessarily just the front-facing stuff like movies and television or games, but talking about networks and things like that. They both their experience in that industry brings about a unique perspective, which I really, really like. Joe T says Jello Biafra on Culture War. Thoughts?
I don't know.
I mean,
is that actually the name?
Yeah, he's I think he's from NoFX. I think is the
Jello
band.
Is his name?
He's a pop punk guy.
What type of Jello?
I think it's just a name because he's a pop punk guy.
Wow, no fun.
But I mean, I guess. I mean, the thing is, like, people maybe a lot of times people say, "Oh, get this person on IRL," when really what they want is that person on the Culture War. Because, and the reason I say this is because they want to know about the person and they want to hear what the person says. But on IRL, it's a topical show. It's about whatever the show is, you know, whatever's going on that day for the vast majority of the time. Once in a while, Tim will have someone on IRL where that, you know, they'll want to talk about, or he'll want to talk about whatever it is that they're involved with, but usually that will be when it's topical, like when he has when he has someone from Daily Wire on because they're doing a movie, right? Like usually those relate to topical things.
Even when we had when we went to the LNC and did the Trump interview, like it was still like, you know, it's probably the biggest guest that we could ever get in American politics yet. You know, it's still very topical.
Yeah. So
ask him about his appearance in Home Alone 2. That's been really funny if Tim just used the time to ask him about pop culture appearances. So, what was it like being in that Pizza Hut ad? Or was it Pizza Hut? He was in some. What was the ad that he was in?
I don't know. He's been in everything.
Yep. All right. Schrodinger's effery there. Apparently, Destiny is a sex pest. That's what he says.
Yes, he is. He's a bad person
and a pederast.
Yeah, pet her ass.
The problem with all of these types of stories is like by the time you get to it, like people like start posting about it on X, and it's like 2 days later, 9,000 things have been posted, and I just don't care.
Destiny?
But like whenever it's like drama stuff, 2 days go by and there's so much lore already, I just don't care.
I
just don't care.
When it comes to Destiny, like he was like sharing videos of sexual acts that he'd done with people on his Discord.
To minors.
Yeah.
Like
without the approval, like just real garbage person shit. Like, and there are actually what's it called? Charges filed.
There are now?
Oh yeah.
I didn't hear that.
There are charges.
Oh, that's
filed.
bad.
Shane H. Wilder says, Phil, opinion on symphonic metal like Camelot. I love their Roy Khan era. His vocals and lyricism were amazing. And I am at work, just recording Weathers, his hit record in Count People Down.
I'm not super into stuff like Camelot and stuff.
Okay.
So.
Dingus Khan says, Melanie Mac or The Quartering would be perfect. Yeah, well, right now, like the thing is we haven't been bringing people in from outside the company. Like that's always a possibility if they come to do IRL, and we can maybe grab them for like another appearance, or if they do Culture War to do another appearance. But as of right now, we're just not doing that here. If we're being honest, like most of the shows outside of like when Phil's on Thursdays, we're doing 2-person shows when things are running smoothly. So. Rapscallion says, seen Alice Cooper in Milwaukee in 2013. Still the best concert I've ever seen. Take my money. Boys. Yes. Rhaegar Targaryen says, lawful good is Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, well, yeah, probably.
I don't think of him as a content creator. Somehow I don't think of him as a content creator. Or like a YouTuber.
I feel that, yeah.
It's like I'm never gonna The Undertaker is now mostly a YouTuber because that's what he does. He does his podcast, but I'm never gonna think of The Undertaker as a YouTuber. That's just weird.
Yeah,
that's just weird. Rhaegar Targaryen says Drunk 3PO would be a good guest. Yeah, well, I mean, maybe one day we'll be able to start bringing people up more frequently. Well, what's funny about that also is like most of the time, it costs a lot to have people come out to do things in person, and we don't do interviews or we don't do anything digitally, over Zoom or anything like that. So like we don't use a StreamYard or whatever. So everything has to be in person, and a lot of the time it's just like if it was financially super beneficial for the show, that might be one thing, but most of the time the numbers are pretty close to the same. That tends to just bring in their audience on a Friday. So. Painful says Jello Biafra is left-leaning, super intelligent keeper of dead Kennedys.
There you go, dead Kennedys. That's it.
I like the name. I love the name.
I thought that was like some sort of like Middle Eastern dessert when I first read that.
That's what I would have thought too. Okay. Shane H. Wilder says, for the record, weather is the easiest and most boring part of my day. Count people in and out every 10 minutes.
What?
I read it as it came. I'm a horrible reader, but I got most of that. I think.
No, you read that right.
Ulvin McGoth says Molcat Doma. Again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Is Russian for silent at home.
Okay.
Stephen Glenn says Gary from Gary Nerdrotic would be amazing. Ask him about gaming.
Hasn't the guy from Nerdrotic been on here before?
He has been on IRL.
Yeah,
he's been on IRL. That was very like early in the time that I was here. Like there's still I have this like funny story where I never took photos with guests ever. Like I'm not a fan of it. It's I don't go asking for photos, but somebody like got a photo of me and him, and it's maybe the worst photo that's ever been taken of me in history.
Condolences.
I think I still have it to take as like an example of never take a photo like this ever. Like it's one of those things where the fact that, and I don't even like, to be fair, I don't remember who took it here, but the fact that they looked at it and didn't say maybe take another one, maybe the greatest insult in the history of the world. Just like, hey Brett, fuck you. Like, I know that photo is shit, and that's too bad.
You know what's funny is like I think it was Jimmy Corsetti when he was he on Pop Culture Crisis? No. He was there in like the middle of the day and was just leaving for some reason.
Culture War?
Possibly, yeah. But he was like maybe one of like 3 guests that I've asked to take a picture with, and he was like, I don't care about how the picture looks, but he was like, no, give me the phone. Like, we're gonna see this now, make sure it's good.
Gimme.
Just like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens. All right. Schrodinger's Effery says, y'all should have Nephilim Death Squad on. They're a little out there for your normal audience, but they're hilarious. Well, we had on what was it, Joel Thomas, and we had on the guy from Confessionals, which is great. I mean, that's a lot of, the Mothman and Bigfoot and stuff that I don't know a whole lot about, but they made documentaries that look cool. So
would a whole death squad of Nephilim fit in this room?
Yes. No, probably not.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think they get in the door.
All right. Pat the Plumber says, is Mary having an exorcism performed on her?
What kind of question is that?
No, she is not. She is traveling at the moment. It says Gooo is a dope band. I don't know who that is. Greg Duvier says, music that was good when it was new but did not age well.
I mean, actually, I don't think that music works like that.
Yeah.
I think that if you write a good song, it's a good song like all the time. There are fads and there are trends, but that doesn't mean that it's a good song. That means they're trendy or it's a fad.
Music or TV is more likely to be the type of thing that doesn't age well. Or TV or movies.
Yeah, TV and movies, yes. But when it comes to music, I think that, and I think that if you write a good song, one of the qualities of a good song is that it's timeless.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that makes it a good song.
That's one of the things, like a lot of times the best movies and television will painstakingly avoid current year language and use more like universal tone, right? So that you don't feel like you're of a certain time period, unless the whole point is that it's a period piece and you're trying to lean into the fact that it takes place in this era. But I was watching this retrospective on the show iZombie, which I actually really liked the first 3 seasons of, and I remember there's this episode in season 5 where this lady she says fake news like 75 times in one episode, and I'm just like, you just immediately dated your show. And now you can't get away with that all the time, because a lot of times what happens is they'll use modern language as a way of like indicating how old a person is, because a kid will use the word, and it's usually never in a way that a kid would actually say, because it's being written by adults that don't actually understand kids most of the time. But it's just like, oh, hey, look how old this guy is, because he doesn't understand what this word means.
He's ancient. Was he 50?
Was he like 50 years old? Zach Yandel says, Coffeezilla, Oompaville, is saying Coffeezilla is lawful good. Is that Oompville or Oompaville?
Oompaville.
Is neutral good, and Turkey Tom is chaotic good.
Okay.
I know Coffeezilla and Turkey Tom. Or no, and never mind. I think I listened to all 3 of them in relation to the story about
Hawktoe?
No, it wasn't that. It was the bread tube movie critic who was talking about Wendigoon.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Bread tube movie critic? That's got to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
A leftist movie.
What was his name? It was like, something in the shadows.
Awful Connie.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. That's what I remember that from. Fever dream of a time period. All right. Metcalf says, I discovered Styx through Army of the Pharaohs in Ja Rule.
That's a weird...
See, if anybody's timeless, it's Ja Rule. Did you see that Irv Gotti died recently? And within hours of him dying, 50 Cent was making fun of him.
I love 50.
But it took me 15 years to realize Castle Walls, they joined my random rock list alongside Pink Floyd and Sabaton. It says, what is my rock genre? He's asking what his rock genre is.
Repeat that again.
So it says, I discovered Styx through Army of Pharaohs and Ja Rule, but it took me 15 years to realize, and then in parentheses, Castle Walls, they joined my random rock list alongside Pink Floyd and Sabaton. What is my rock genre?
I have no idea what any of that means.
I think he's trying to play 20 questions.
You're speaking another language.
Yeah, I have no clue what you're talking about.
Thank you. In Praise of Shadows. That was the name of the tune.
Yeah. I almost said Into the Shadows.
Terrence Rice says no, Brett. No, Brett to what? Like to
everything.
To everything? That'd actually be awesome. Like at the end of the day,
no,
at the end
Brett.
of the show, somebody just goes, actually, no.
No.
2 hours later, just no. So he says, isn't RedTube a porn site? Well, I didn't say RedTube. I said BreadTube.
Like the
I heard
food.
all the I was under the impression that after the USAID stuff that a bunch of that stuff went kaput anyway. The Based Clone says, question for Phil. If you have to support one in a life of death versus debate battle, in a life or death debate battle, so you have to support one person, or else PCC is canceled, A Horse, Vosh, or Destiny. I'm not going to read the rest of it. You have to support one of them, Vosh or Destiny.
I got to know the other people because those are
the only ones he listed. You have to, in a life or death battle or PCC gets canceled, you have to choose one.
a horse.
Well, it's more so he's using
it as a way of describing
adjective.
Yeah. Easy. Yeah. The horse member.
So Vosh?
Okay.
No. Oh,
yeah. So
horse.
he's
using
horse member
It's
Vosh.
the chew.
Yeah.
Yeah. I refuse to endorse either. I don't have to. Buy PCC.
Oh man, he wouldn't even save us.
Sorry, Brett.
It's fine. It's
You wouldn't
fine.
even jump into the ring and beat the shit out of both of them, you know?
No.
All right. A Magic Monkey says, after a 15-hour day, I got home to Anti-Fragile LP waiting for me, put it on, turned it all the way up, and ripped the knob off. Let's effing go.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Thank you.
That randomly popped into my...
Terrence Rice was to my comment about Ja Rule. Yeah, well, that's because I was kidding. Firefest 2. Let's go. Shane H. Weiler says, I was saying I direct weather records during PCC. It is the easiest part of my day. I have plenty of time to multitask during it.
Do you work for Noah?
Yeah. He works at a TV station, I believe.
Oh.
There you
go. Does he have like a cool weather name? Like Max
Freeze. I don't think he's the weatherman.
Max Freeze.
Or like Joe Rain.
That actually is so in the show iZombie that I mentioned earlier, there's this degenerate weatherman named something Frost. What is it? It's like Joe Frost or Max
Please
Frost.
Tell me it's not Jack Frost.
It might be Jack Frost, but I just know the Johnny Frost, I think. And he's all into just hookers and blow all the time. That's his thing.
That's,
checks out.
Yeah, for a weatherman.
It's so funny too, because like in the suburb that I grew up in, like a bunch of I grew up in the city of Woodbury had like a new area and an old area. The old area was there before all of the big developments got built. Right, like I literally grew up right next to like a workhouse, like a jail where like people who got DUIs spent their weekend.
Damn.
They had the weekend sentences back then. And then there was the new area of Woodbury, which was all upscale because 3M was built and then all the rich people moved in over there. And a bunch of the weathermen and a bunch of like the anchors for the news networks all lived in that city, in the city, because it was like just the right distance from St. Paul, Minneapolis. The Manic Mustache says, I have to ask the failed rock star in the room, what is your favorite injury you acquired while partying? You can answer too, Andrew.
Favorite injury I've acquired by partying? How do you have a favorite injury?
Oh, that's easy. It was whenever that year Trump said he was going to have that military parade in D.C. for the 4th of July, me and my roommates, we went down to the National Mall and we brought like a flag and like a case of beer and just got super hammered that entire day. And then my dumbass thinks it's a good idea to foot race a Navy soldier or a sailor, and who's actually in shape, and in a crowded National Mall. So, you know, we just take off booking it because we're drunk. And I end up almost running into this like old lady that I didn't see. And I stopped short and like my knee almost like went backwards. But it was my favorite injury because I was drunk.
Okay.
Any, Phil?
I don't have any particular injuries that have happened when I was drunk, to be honest with you. Like
that you remember.
Well, yeah, I mean, that I remember.
I have favorite skating injuries, but no favorite party injuries.
Yeah, I only have like one significant injury that I can think of, like in my adult life, and it's from jujitsu.
Do you just not get injured?
I really don't get injured very much, and I think a lot of it is because I exercise a lot and I stay flexible and stuff. But a dude, you know, hyperextended my knee, and I think he ripped my PCL, not the M or the ACL, the PCL, which is the little one under your kneecap.
I had a dude in wrestling once. He put me into an armbar and then popped out my shoulder, and then as he released it, popped back in, and it was just like the weirdest, worst thing I've ever felt in my life.
Weirdest, worst.
Yes.
Dislocated anything sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you have like, you know, a teenager putting it back in effectively for you.
Terrence Rice says Darude Sandstorm music video is straight up fever dream. I mean, that's also one of the early memes.
Yes,
Darude Sandstorm is a very early example of meme culture in America. The internet. All right. Meme Machine says I tore my PCC. So I might have to make merch out of that. I might have to make merch out of that. Rhaegar Targaryen says I never got party injuries, but it's because I am usually the person that stays the most sober and observes the people. I don't like being out of control.
That's smart.
That is the best thing you can do in that.
Stop snorting that PCC.
You don't want to do that either. That's not good. That's not good.
Too much PCC in your nose will, you know, destroy your sinuses.
Yep. I'm trying to think of who else I would think of as like lawful good, and I guess I just don't pay.
Have you been passively thinking about this
like
since?
In the back of my mind, I was like, you know what it is? Maybe I don't pay enough attention to the character attributes of people on the internet.
Because you're a human.
Because like also like you understand that a certain aspect of it is a performance anyways, so I wouldn't even actually be judging them as a person. Shane H. Wilder says I'm essentially Brett or Serge, except not on camera.
So you're Serge.
That's okay. I mean, I'm not even Brett most of the time. I'm disassociating half the time.
Do you need help?
Yes. Dull and Tired says, I love being out of control. I do not. Even back in the day, I did not love it. Doesn't stop you from making bad choices, though. But as for like my favorite skating injury, probably my first concussion.
Yeah.
Oh. 12 years old. Hit the back of my... I love this story. So I hit the back of, I hit my head, jumped a gap, hit my head, lost consciousness, and I still have the photo that my friend took, like with like a disposable camera, because it was a gazillion years ago. And I still think about it to this day, how my friend had like the wherewithal to like not freak out and be like, hey, Brett. And then I'm non-responsive, and he still takes a photo of it. I'm like, if I had died, the police would have loved that. They would have been like, oh, look, there's the evidence that he died on the property. But no, I still have that photo too. Like I've posted it before. Like I have like highlights in my hair because I'm like 12 years old. Yep. All right.
12 years old.
Or someone had super chatted enough money to make you diet.
Well, yeah, long before that. That time I was just young and stupid, though I would never go back to blonde now. So when I was at the dentist recently, the lady who comes in goes, "Didn't your hair used to be blonde?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "It looks better now." I'm like, "Thank you." Which is funny because before, like, either her or another nurse was like, "Wow, that looks really." I guess dental assistant was like, "Wow, really like the hair." I'm like, I don't know if you actually mean. that
no.
I don't know if you actually mean that or not. Megan Reese says, I too have never liked the idea of lowering my inhibitions to the point of not controlling my actions via substances. Yeah, it doesn't mean you don't make mistakes, though. Some of us make mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, right. What was I just saw a funny one up there. When to goon.
Oh, jeez.
That's my channel.
Kai says, I don't know, man. It's a sausage fest today.
Boys.
It's a separate thing entirely. All right. I don't know. What do you guys do you know who's going to be on IRL tonight?
Nope.
I do not.
It's so funny. I ask that question all the time, and I never get an answer until like I'll ask Tim that question. He's like, I have no idea.
There used to be
A spreadsheet
that I just don't like. They don't show anymore.
I feel
no idea.
Yeah.
It actually it speaks to Tim's strength that he can like have a conversation with literally anybody.
Well, again,
about
this is
anything,
it's
topical.
It's topical. The important thing isn't who's going to be on. The important thing is what the news is. So,
do you have have you had a favorite episode that you've been on?
Well, I mean,
one that sticks out to you that you think of as like the quintessential episode that you've done.
The first Alex Jones one that I did was fun.
That was a good one.
When was that?
Oh, that was before I actually worked here.
It's like what, 2021, 2022?
Yeah, it's like 2021. Yeah.
It was like right after they started in Maryland.
Yeah.
So early day, was it all the way up where the old PCC
No, it was like
studio
right
was, or was
after
it right
them.
when we moved down?
Right when you moved,
moved
yeah.
down. Okay, yeah. Metcalf says, No,
it was upstairs.
Was it?
It was in the first.
I thought it was upstairs.
It was in the first IRA. It was in the studio that PCC was in, like, yeah. It was upstairs. Absolutely.
Huh. Metcalf, it's so funny how like people don't understand. Like literally, we made a bunch of changes to the backdrops there, but those cameras were exactly nothing changed.
Yeah.
I just kind of like went up there and started like, okay, we'll just make a show. Nothing else changed with the cameras.
Until you moved here.
Yes. Metcalf says, I once got rejected by some chick at a party, so I said exit stage left, vaulted the balcony railing, hanging off of the awning and dropping down to the road below, fracturing my he says public symphysis. I think he meant pubic symphysis.
What?
I don't know what a symphysis is.
So she rejected you, so you like took the superhero exit. You're like, you were supposed to land with one hand on the ground, crouched,
and then look back up at her and sprint away.
Yeah. All right. Serenko Production says, bring back Blonde Brett. If you get to 30 crisis parties today, I still won't.
30 crisis parties.
And he still won't.
I still won't.
I can't do it anymore. Plus, I'm gonna like the funniest would be like, it's like a day before I'm about to get married, and then just dyed blonde, and then immediately she divorces me after that. That would be funny though.
Realistically, that's Brett's worst fear, is that the crisis actors make him go back blonde.
I would just not do it. Greg Duvier says, put a girl on, like the song says. Well, we will eventually.
Put a chick in it and make it gay.
When Mary gets back. I think they said put a chicken in and make it gay. I was like, I don't know what you mean.
No, like the South Park episode.
Faking, yes.
Yeah.
Lame and gay. Wasn't it?
No, it's fake. Put a chick in it and make it gay.
Yeah.
I was lame and gay. No? Okay. It's been so long since I've seen that. It's literally for a long time, that was the only reason to have Paramount Plus was the South Park specials.
I didn't even get Paramount Plus to watch it. I just watched it with Tim.
Shane H. Wilder says, never gonna... He's, I'm not gonna sing Rick Astley. He says, never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna turn around and desert you. Me and my friends had our own version of...
It's gonna run around and desert you is the lyric.
Me and my friends had our own version of Rick Rolling, but it was Paper Planes by MIA. Because there was like a year where that song was in every skate video that came out. So
it was in everything.
So we would do hidden hyperlinks to things that were just that song. And then she was here, and I didn't get a chance to tell her that story. That was actually one time I wanted to be like, by the way, your song helped me torture my friends for a good 6 months.
Good stuff.
It was good stuff.
Now that's a good song.
Yeah. High Voltage 75 says, in light of President's Day coming up, do you have a favorite past president?
I'm partial
Teddy.
to... What?
Teddy Roosevelt.
Really?
Yeah, dude. He was a man's man.
Strongly disagree. Silent Cal or Thomas Jefferson?
Literally none of them. Yep. Chief says lame was part of it.
Really?
Okay.
Yep.
I guess we're wrong.
Yep. Have you ever seen the meme of the guy who's dressed up like Abraham Lincoln on the balcony and he's got the phone and he says, about to watch this live performance? There's some great memes that have been made about that. Andrew Cano, did you see the stuff about like, where like they confirmed that there was like a second shooter for JFK?
Yeah,
and cared?
yeah, because we already knew.
I mean, it's that, and it's like they confirm aliens every year now, and nobody cares.
Yeah, it's like
until you actually bring out an alien spaceship and make it do something that is beyond human capability, like just nobody cares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even then, like, we're still gonna have doubts.
Yeah. All right. Andrew Canoy says, "Hi Phil, the proof is in the proof."
Oh, thank you very much.
I do like that song.
Thank you.
I did like that song. All right. Megan Reese says, "Oh, politically, Roosevelt was awful, but he was pretty epically manly."
Yeah, dude.
Rhaegar Targaryen says Jefferson is also a great one. Also think that Washington shouldn't count because it's too obvious. Oh, you want to be the hipster of politician of loving presidents. You don't want to pick the one everybody else does. You've probably never heard of this one before.
George Washington?
Oh man, like
super bespoke.
Maybe you've never heard of him before. All
Made
right.
an artisanal government.
All right. Last one here. Shane, unless somebody wants to get us to a third crisis party before we go, we're actually really close. I didn't realize we were that close. Shane H. Wilder says, the first Alex Jones appearance. I'm a gorilla.
Yeah.
I still have that shirt. I still have that
Good
shirt
stuff.
somewhere.
Is it the
blue one?
The misprint?
No, not the it wasn't the misprint. That'd be great though. There's probably one still around there.
There probably is.
I was
I'm sure there is.
I was back at the castle recently. There's like a whole shelf of like merch that's still sitting there. There's probably one buried at the bottom of that like pile of merch there.
A gold mine.
Something you could sell on eBay if you wanted to.
To one person.
Exactly. Yeah, to the one person who would buy it. All right, guys. Before we go, would you hit the like? Oh, one more here from No Control. It says, "From my second favorite, Phil, more relevant every day. You can't be something you're not. Be yourself. Be yourself. Stay away. From a lesson learned in life, known from the dawn of time."
Yeah, that's an All That Remains lyric.
There you go. And Not That John Stewart says, "I have one of those misprints." Ooh, somebody got one.
Nice.
There you go. All right. All right, guys. Before we go, hit the like button on this video, please, and subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed here yet already, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. Andrew, let everybody know where they can find you, man.
Well, you can find me here seemingly bi-weekly at this point, and you can also find me at @A_Mingst.
Oh, there you go. Phil.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm a Phil That Remains official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. New record drop January 31st. It's called Anti-Fragile. You can get it on Amazon, YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, and Deezer. And don't forget, the left lane is for crime.
Yes, it is. I'm about to hang out here until somebody we are literally so close to the third crisis party. I'm just gonna hang out here.
I'll stick here.
Pee.
Yeah. I was like, literally, I will wait here and put on chair.
Now I'm the co-host. Look at me.
If you guys want to follow me, I am on Instagram and on Twix at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. We are here 5 days a week, guys, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is noon Pacific. We are on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify if you would like to listen rather than watch. And if you want to follow the show on social media, we are on Twix at popculture_show, Facebook at popculturecrisis, and on Instagram at popculturecrisisPod. We got a couple more here. One from Potatoes for Seamus, who says, "Who is your least favorite president?" And I want answers, Brett. When you become president, you will pardon Mocha. I'm not pardoning Mocha. That will never happen. I'm sorry. I don't have a least favorite president either. Least favorite president?
There's so many to choose from, dude. Like, that's the hard one.
Yep. I'm putting you on the spot here.
I'm trying to think. I mean, like, it really is between, like, FDR, Reagan, Clinton, and Jackson.
There you go.
I'd probably go with Jackson over all of them because he created the Democratic Party, and the Trail of Tears was just ridiculous and not cool.
Okay, there you go. Shane H. Wilder says, Phil is correct. It is run around. I had a brain fart. Yep, that happens. And Dylan Dishner says, how far are we now? We have accomplished said crisis party, which we will actually hear momentarily. If I could just find the button.
See, I see someone say Carter, but that's the thing is, like, I won't include Carter on that because while he was a bad president, he's genuinely, like, one of the only ones that I can see as, like, a good dude. Like, up until he died, he was building houses. Like, if you're a grifter, you don't build houses at 100 years old. You're dead. Like...
All right. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back with another episode tomorrow. We will see y'all then. Bye, everybody.